Hey guys, in the last tutorial we talked about how you can set operations for particular cells to equal the value that's in another cell and apply different things to them. So for example, in this cell here, which is A4, we applied a formula which we created, which was A1 plus A2 plus A3, and it equaled the values of all these things, which was 6. This one was the reverse, it just had the subtraction, and this one was a multiplication. Now you can imagine that this, as in typing this formula in A1 plus A2 plus A3, can become a problem if instead of having 3 data points, we have 3,000 data points. So what the developers of Google Sheets have done for us is create what's called functions. And functions take all the legwork out of this and return a value that we want based on a particular range or set of data. I'll show you what I mean. Let's say instead of adding all these cells together in this one cell by just typing in equals A1 equals A2, plus A2 plus A3, we used a function. And I'm going to backspace this to clear it, and I'm going to put a new function in. I'm going to say A4, you're going to equal a function, and that function is going to be called the sum function. And you'll see all I did is type in the letters SUM, and up has popped all these little things in this box. And what each of these individual things is a function, a pre-built function. So the sum function, which is this first one, it gives us a little description. It says the sum of a series of numbers or cells. And that sounds like what we need. So to use a particular function, and we'll go back over this in just a moment, but to use a particular function, all we have to do is type in the letters of the function, or type in the name of the function, and open the brackets, or open the parentheses. And you can see here, it's given us an example in the box again. It said, the sum of all the numbers between A2 and A100. And in this part here, it says the sum of value 1, value 2, or ... away to infinity. And down here it says the summary of this function is returns the sum of a series of numbers and or cells. Okay, so how do we use it? I'm going to put it into practice and then you'll be able to see what happens when we change numbers. So we're going to say the sum of the values that are in A1, A2, and A3. Press enter, and notice how I close the brackets there before I press enter. That closes off the function and it tells us that's the end of the function. And it equals 6. Once again, if we were to put another number in here, say 1,000, you can see how it comes up with the appropriate answer, which is 1,000 plus 2 plus 3. But what this can do also is it can adjust for negative numbers. So if we had 1,000 minus 1 plus 1, the answer is 0. Whereas before, when we had A1 plus A2 plus A3, it wouldn't have adjusted well with the negative numbers. So the sum function takes out the bias that's created by having different signs in front of your numbers. But you're probably saying now, okay, Owen, that's all well and good, but all you've done is just simply put in the same numbers again. You've just put in the function in front of it. And I'll say, okay, but what we can do is we can use that sum function in a different way. We can say equals the sum, and then we can just click, like we did in some of the earlier tutorials, we can just click on the cells that we want. In this case, I'm going to left click on A1, click and hold, and then we can drag it down. And you'll see what's happened here. I've just released a click. You can see it equals the sum, open brackets, of A1 semicolon A3. And what's that saying is sum all the numbers between A1 and A3. So we close the brackets and hit enter. And you'll see the answer is still 1,000. It's the same function, but notice we didn't have to put in A1, A2, A3 with all the little commas in between. We just simply clicked and then we dragged within the function. And now you're saying, okay, that's okay. That's pretty cool. Now I'm going to open your mind again to something else. Let's say instead of just summing the numbers that are in this particular range, we summed all the numbers that are in this range. So we want all 6 of these numbers. Notice how they're not in a straight line, they're not in the same column, they're not in the same row. They're all 6 are in different areas. All we'd have to do, and I'll backspace this again, is say equals the sum of all the values that are between, and I'm typing now, I'm not going to click and drag, I'm going to show you the other way, which is just by typing the sum of all the numbers between A1, semicolon, B3. Notice how they're not the same letter. They're not in the same column. I've gone from this cell up in the top left corner, which is A1, across and down to B3. All I have to do is close the brackets, and it gives us the answer of all the values in all of these 6 cells in this range here. So I can go put in 64. I could notice how that one updated. This one is also updated. I could put in 10,000 instead of -1, and that's updated there. But this one hasn't, because remember what cells that is referencing, those ones. I could put in -5,000 and watch the value update there, the value's updated there, the value's updated there. So that's pretty cool when you're saying, okay, that's a great function, the sum function. It takes out the worry of having to equal everything else. I'm going to reset these numbers now just so we can make it easy to understand in later functions what's going on. So we're back here. We're saying the sum of all these things in this cell. I'm actually going to get rid of that now, and I'm going to get rid of all these things around the outside. Earlier, we used the sum function, which is equals sum. And you'll notice how that I've typed in equals and in the function, its name, which is the sum function, and then open brackets. Down here, we have learn about sum. If we click on this, it takes us to a handy tutorial where we can learn about the sum function. And you can do that with any function. And that's important because when we get to later tutorials, we may use functions that you maybe haven't seen before. And instead of us having to explain each individual function, what you can do is you can just type it into Google Sheets for yourself and then look at the different syntax or how we use it or the notes and similar functions down below. So that's available for every function that you will use that's pre-built in Google Sheets. Anyway, we're going to go back to our original function. So this is the sum function. I'm going to show you another function now. And I'm going to keep the equal sign there because we're doing a function. And we're going to say the average. And that seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? That's going to return the numerical average value in a data set, ignoring any text. And you can see there's all these other different types of averages there too. Remember to open the function, or to begin the function, we open the brackets. And you can see it's given us an example. We can use the same type of range that we did with the sum function. We can say the value in a range between A2 and A100 or B2 and B100, or it gives us a value, or we could type in the values individually. What I'm going to do is to return the average of these 3 numbers here. I'm clicking and dragging, and as we know, the average, or the mean average I should say, of these 3 numbers will be the sum of the 3 numbers, which is 3 plus 2 plus 1 equals 6, divided by the number of entries, and in this case there's 3. So 6 divided by 1, 2, 3 equals 2. So just close that. The average should be 2. And you see the mean average, it's calculated for us, is the mean average of all this data in here. And we could do the same thing as we did before. We could put in another number. We could put in 10 in here. And you'll see the average is updated to 5 because 10 plus 2 is 12, plus 3 is 15, and divided by the number of entries, which is 3, equals 5. That's the average. So there are a range of cool functions in Google Sheets. And although we won't go through them all, I encourage you to just press equals and then say, type in a random letter and see what it comes up with. And you can see all these different functions. Now this is saying, yeah, if we use this function, the hour function, it says the hour component of a specific time. Or as a hyperlink function, or there's a HLOOKUP, or I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't used half of these or 3/4 of these functions ever, but you can see that there are many different functions that you can use to apply to your spreadsheets. And all you have to do, if we want to use that hour function and we don't know how to use it exactly, obviously we just click on learn more about hour. So that's how you can use functions in Excel, in Google Sheets rather. You can also use them in Microsoft Excel if you like. In later tutorials we'll cover more functions, as well as how you can apply them to multiple data sets at the same time. So until then, have a bit of fun, play around with the spreadsheet, put in different functions that you want to use, or just randomly put in any letters and see what pops up.